Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I mostly make videos about books, and I have made quite a few videos about poetry collections that I thought were bad. So I wanted to make this video to kind of explain why I do that and to maybe engage a little bit with my guilt about doing that. So I'm going to start by saying that the way that I got into booktube in the first place was the algorithm. I don't even remember, I think I was mostly watching disability channels and chronic illness channels and just nothing book related at all. And then YouTube's algorithm recommended to me a video from Paperback Dreams where she was reading 50 Shades of Grey and just tearing it apart, laughing at it, etc. And I was like, wow, this is totally up my alley. I love this. I love this. And then I learned that that person has an entire channel and most of her videos are not these ranty videos, and that's fine, and I like watching videos of book recommendations, of excellent books, talking about books that you like. But I love the rants, and I know that I'm not alone. I have looked at so many booktube channels, and you can just look for yourself. Pick any booktube channel. What are their highest viewed videos? Usually they're videos about bad books. So what's the deal with that? What is going on? This is definitely true for me. My highest viewed video at the moment is my Instagram poetry video, where I was like extra salty that day for some reason and was like really ranting. And I think the controversy also drives some traffic as well. So like my video about Infinite Jest has kind of a lot of views for me relative to my small channel. And that was like a controversial take because David Foster Wallace stans are intense. But point being, like, these are by and large some of the most popular booktube videos, and I think they reach people outside of the booktube universe. And is this just bullying? Do we just like laughing at people? Like, what's going on? That's what I want to talk about. So let's talk about bad writing. A thing that's very hard to define. A thing that might be impossible to define. But I made a list of some things that I think are objectively bad. So being like sloppy, inexperienced, really inadequately edited, continuity problems, breaking conventional writing rules for no apparent reason. That's my list of like genuinely, objectively bad things, because we have to acknowledge that art is subjective. I want to go on to say that I took a writing class where the first day we did this exercise where it was a group exercise. We were grouped into like 2 or 3 people, pairs and groups, and our professor asked us to write something bad. Pretty simple, right? Very interesting exercise. I totally recommend this for any writers because, of course, this exercise forced us to think about what is bad writing. Like, most of the time you try to write well, you try to create something good, but like, what would it be like to sit down and try to write something bad? And like, how do you identify what bad writing is? And so we wrote our bad writing, and then we made a list of things that we think constitute bad writing, things to avoid, and that was a really great exercise, although I will say that a lot of it ended up being like, a lot of the final products of that ended up being not bad because they were funny, because they were a parody, basically, which I'll talk about a little bit more. The difference between being sincere and being aware of the rules you're breaking and breaking them on purpose are 2 totally different things, right? So that's how I think about bad writing. That's why I think that engaging with bad writing can be actually really, really useful. So let's talk about why I love booktube rants. Because I think they do what that bad writing exercise does for me. Of course, there is a little bit of like catharsis and a little bit of feeling like, okay, well, I'm not the absolute worst writer in the world, probably, because this is making me feel better. And I do think that a lot of us watch these things for that reason. Even if you're not a writer, maybe you just want to watch somebody fail. Maybe this is the literary equivalent of a compilation video of people falling on their faces. I mean, that's sort of the not generous reading of this. The more generous reading of this would be to say that it teaches us what not to do and that it is actually very useful. And I think it's both. I think it would be I would be lying to say that it's not both. It is both. I definitely watch these videos for catharsis and to feel better about myself, and I watch them because they do genuinely teach me things about what not to do. And I think the way that they teach me things about what not to do is that a part of bad writing is that the author's thought process is transparent. So in a good story, in the best kind of story, I think, you can reach a place, maybe not for very long, where you are honestly like not even aware that you're in a story. So has this ever happened to you? I don't know if this really does happen to other people. It hasn't happened to me for a long time, but when I was a kid especially, there would be times where I'd go to the movies, movie theater, and I'd be watching a movie, and like halfway through the movie I would realize that I wasn't even like aware anymore that I was a person in a theater. It was just in the story, so engrossed that I like completely lost myself. And I think when that happens, you're just not thinking of the story as a story. You're not aware that every line of dialogue and every part was created and every little piece was a choice that could have gone a different way. Whereas when you engage with bad writing, every turn you're just like, oh, I see what you're doing. It's completely transparent. And I think that helps me, though, to be able to see the transparent thought process of authors and what they go through and what they choose. So a really great example of this that most people know is that you're not supposed to write exposition in dialogue, right? You're not supposed to have a character in a movie or a book say like, wow, what a nice day to be a senior in high school in 1975. Like, that's just not, you shouldn't do that. And we all know that that's bad. But it's bad because no one talks that way. But that's not the only reason why it's bad. Because, like, there are plenty of successful movies and books that have dialogue that is not at all the way that people talk in real life, and we accept it within that universe, and that can actually be like a really fun, joyful part of that movie or book. So that's really one component, but I think the bigger component is that you're going, oh, I see. The author wants us to know where we are. It's the awareness of the author in that moment that breaks you out of the story, and it ruins the story facade. That said, it's also worth noting that, like, sometimes you can do that and it's not bad, right? Like, if you're breaking the fourth wall, if you're being meta, if you're in a parody, like I said about the bad writing exercise, sometimes trying to do something bad intentionally can't really be classified as bad because it ends up being enjoyable, and the difference is sincerity, right? This is why the creator of the movie The Room, Tommy Wiseau, tried to backpedal. There's this wonderful quote where he's at like his premiere of The Room or something. He's being interviewed, and someone asks him like, so what genre is this movie? And up until that point, every record of his experience making the movie says that he was thinking of it as a drama, a serious American drama. But when he was asked at the premiere what genre it was and he had seen that people were laughing, he said that it was a comedy. Right, because if his intention, it's like, you know, I meant to do that. That's in real life, the real life equivalent of being like, I was joking, I wasn't being serious, you're laughing because I meant to make you laugh. Like, if you're being sincere and you fail, you're being laughed at. And if you are trying to create a parody of a bad thing and you succeed, then you're being laughed with. So, and most of these booktube videos are not laughing with, they're laughing at. We are reading bad things and saying, look how bad this person did. Look how much they aren't aware of themselves. And this is where I'm kind of struggling with this from an ethical standpoint as a creator, because I mean, I've argued before that I think my impact, no matter what it is very small. But that can change on a dime. I mean, I don't expect it to. I don't think I'm gonna go viral tomorrow and have like 1 million followers with my janky YouTube channel that I film on my phone. I just don't think that's going to happen, and that's fine. And maybe that's better. Maybe I wouldn't want that to happen, because part of being a small creator is that I can kind of fall back on knowing that I'm not gonna have any really big impact, whether good or bad. So for example, I just recently got into Jenny Nicholson's channel. She's a very big YouTuber. Yeah, maybe you've heard of her. I don't know. She doesn't primarily make book videos, but the algorithm recommended to me one of her like 3 or 4 book videos. She reads a lot of fan fiction and self-published stuff. Yeah, basically that. And so I'm not criticizing Jenny Nicholson. I'm really not. But I think it's interesting to note that how can I criticize her? Like, I watched every one of those videos and I loved them and I was having such a great time. Like, so entertaining. But it really made me think about this stuff because she, unlike myself, has a huge following, and she even said in one of her videos, like, please don't go after this person. And you hear this all the time. People make comedy videos about someone and they're like, I'm not trying to be a bully, so don't bully on my behalf. It's like you have these like minions who just go out and do your bidding, but if you tell them not to do it, like, you can't control the actions of those people. They might be your fans, but they're not beholden to you and what you tell them not to do or not do. And so she was saying that this thing happens when she makes videos of these like self-published works where people will go to Amazon and just write a bunch of bad reviews of a book that they haven't even read. And that's awful. Like, you know, writing a bad book is not like, if your book is just sloppy, poorly edited, etc., your book isn't like racist and terrible from a message standpoint, I feel a little differently about that. But if you are just kind of like an inexperienced writer who sincerely wrote a book and tried your hardest and decided to self-publish, and then here comes this swarm of people, you don't even expect anyone to read this book, that breaks my heart. That's really sad. I don't, and I'm not saying this to like tear down this huge YouTuber. I think she's great, and it's not her fault, right? Those people are acting, you know, of their own free will, and they shouldn't be doing that. But I mean, that's why I don't think I'm ever gonna make a video about like a, you know, like teen fan fiction or a self-published. Not that only teens write fan fiction, but I just think it'd be particularly sad to tear down like a kid. I'm not gonna make a video about a person who's like equally as small as me, because you do never know. Again, I think it's kind of cocky to say there's even a slight risk of any of my videos doing well enough to do real harm. I don't think they really will. But if they did, I would feel really bad. And so that's why when I do make the videos about writing that I think is bad, I choose people who are mostly like very famous and successful. Because it feels like, it's not that it has no power to hurt their feelings, it's just the likelihood of them even seeing the video at all is so small. And when you are a celebrity, like, it does kind of come with the territory that you're going to be criticized. And if you're a celebrity and you decide to write a book, then people are definitely going to criticize it. You know, if I don't make the video, someone else will. That's probably a really bad argument in favor of doing something. I don't know. I mean, I wanted to start this discussion. Most people have been very supportive. In my first Instagram poetry video, I many times over said I hope I wasn't being too mean, and people in the comments mostly said that I wasn't being too mean. But I don't know how much you can base your moral compass on what people say in a YouTube comment section, right? And I don't know. And then at least 1 or 2 people have written comments that are like, why are you so negative if you don't have anything nice to say? That was on my Gabby Hanna video, and I'm just like, she's a millionaire though. Like, you probably honestly hurt my feelings way more by writing that comment that I saw, because I'm a tiny YouTuber, than I had on Gabby Hanna making a video that she will never see, probably, unless she like searches and watches every single video about her, in which case, like, you should not be doing that for your own mental health. So, okay, that was a bit of a rambling video about why I read and engage with things that I expect to not be good, and why I watch videos of people doing the same thing. I do think it helps me as a writer. I spent a couple years as a book reviewer, and I read a lot of books I would not have normally read, and a lot of them were really bad, and it really taught me in a clear way what not to do. I think sometimes it can be easier to know what not to do by looking at an example of someone doing that than it is to look at an example of really, really excellent fiction where, again, you're really not aware of the author's thought process because they're so good at the smokescreen of making you unaware of it. So I actually do recommend reading bad books every once in a while. It can help your self-esteem. It doesn't hurt anybody if you're not making videos about it. If you are making videos about it, I don't know, bit of an ethical gray area, I think. And I'm going to keep thinking this over, but I would love to hear your thoughts. That's all. Bye.